Hello, Bournemouth fans. Yes, it's international break. It's not very good, is it? But don't worry, we're bringing you more Bournemouth content. I've got Jon here with me, and we're going to rate the Bournemouth players so far this season in a tier list based on the main Premier League squad. Jon, great to see you. Really good to catch up with you in Newcastle. And let's take a look at the team so far, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. 7 games is definitely enough for us to judge how well they're going to do over a 38-game season. So we can already write a few players off, I'm sure. But let's see what our opinions are.
Make sure you subscribe to Cherries Red Army. If you're new to the channel, please do join us in our journey. Hit the like button. As always, that really does help the video. And of course, we want to get your thoughts on this video in the comments. The tier list. Let's have a look at on the screen. You'll see every single player in that main squad down at the bottom. Top tier, absolute class. Next tier, very good. Steady Eddie. Underperforming. Not fair to judge. At the bottom, Parker was right. Not good enough for the Premier League. Let's see if anyone falls in that category. Are you happy with the category, Jon?
Yep, absolutely.
So I reckon we just start as we go. It might fluidly go from the back to the front. We might just randomly pick players. We're not sure how this is going to work, but we're going to go for it. Join us in this tier list, rating the players after 7 games. Straight in then, Jon. Let's go for Mark Travers. We're going to together try and rate these players, and kept a clean sheet against Aston Villa, then had 3 hard games with manager setting us up in a very difficult way, and then he was dropped when Neto came in to play against Wolves. Jon, I'm saying not fair to judge at this moment in time because he kept a clean sheet, and then we got beaten by Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal. I don't think it's fair to judge. I think Travers has got a lot more to do in this season, but yeah, not fair to judge. I just don't feel I can judge him yet.
Yeah, I suppose I'd have to agree because he has only played 4 games. He kept a clean sheet in 1, and against the other 3, City, I can't think of any saves that he should have made for City. Liverpool, maybe a few. Arsenal, I don't think so. So, yeah, it's his stats don't look great because of the 3 games we played against the big sides, but that's not fair to judge him on those. It's literally not fair to judge him on those 3 games. So yeah, let's keep him there.
So his backup goalkeeper, not currently backup at the moment, is Neto. He came in from Barcelona on a free transfer. Someone said to me, he's an all right goalkeeper. He didn't play many times for Barcelona, Jon, but he doesn't catch a lot. I very much saw that against Wolves. Kept a clean sheet, though. But what he does give you is a bit of enthusiasm. He's very active. I think his feet is a little bit better than Mark Travers, you would say, but he's come from Barcelona. Is it too soon to go into very good? I want to say steady. I mean, he had a very good game against Newcastle, but again, it's only, 3 games in for him, and he has been steady. I think it's just too soon to go very good.
It's a tough one. I mean, his save percentage is already, pretty decent. He's he's doing a good job of keeping out all the shots you'd expect him to save. Obviously beaten by a penalty. They got 2 goals against Forest. One of those was a penalty, and the other one I think was more of a setup issue. I'm more inclined to go very good at this point. I think just because of his kicking ability. There were a couple against Newcastle that I had an issue with, but he certainly showed against Wolves that he's very good on the ball. I'm happy to leave it as steady and go with you, but I am more inclined to say that I have been impressed so far by what I've seen from him. So I'll happily bow to Kirk for this one, but I am inclined to sort of say that he's very much bordering on very good. But I think you're of a similar opinion.
We need another tier, don't we? We need another tier between steady and very good for Neto. Steady, though. Some might say very good, and you'd be fair to say that. Next player, though, Jon, straight over to you is Ryan Fredericks. Had an injury in pre-season, did come in, though, against Nottingham Forest and made an impact in that second half. Then again, got injured in training, I believe, before the Newcastle game. He looks like he's not fair to judge.
Yeah, I mean, he's only played 67 minutes so far. I don't think that's fair to judge at all. It's obviously less than a full game. Had a very good 45 minutes against Forest, but I think he'll be like a few others that we can say that it's pretty easy to throw straight into not fair to judge.
Not fair to judge, Jon, but are you worried about the injury concerns we're seeing already? Because I did hear them when we signed him. Good player, good going forward. Defensively, not sure, but injury record is a little bit of a concern.
It is, but we're just going to have to go with it at this point. And if when he does play, he's able to add something to the team, then I think it's worth it. I think he's only on I believe he'd be only on a 2-year deal. I certainly think he's definitely more than 1 year. But we've got to take the time to make sure that he gets as fit as he can before he comes onto the pitch, which isn't an easy thing for Premier League football to do. They tend to get rushed back, but we've got cover, so he needs to be given time to make sure that he's fit.
Not fair to judge for Ryan Fredericks. Next player on the list is Lloyd Kelly. Captain Kelly, I think he's been very good this season when he's played. We think he's got a long-term injury. I'm happy to put him in very good. I think he's still our top assist maker with 2. And look, could Kelly step up to the mark? I think he's showing signs that he could, and he's definitely taking more into the captaincy. I'd be happy to put him into very good at this stage. John, thoughts?
I mean, if we're going to put any player into absolute class, he's one of 3. He's probably one of maybe 3, because if very good is what I think a lot of players fit into. I think Kelly has shown to be comfortable at this level. I think he's put in a lot of really good performances. You're right; he's our top assist maker, which is not his job, but he's doing it well. And I can't really think of any mistakes apart from let's see, the Wolves where Jimenez came in on a 1-on-1, which Neto did a good job of sort of partly smothering. But yeah, I mean,
you want to go absolute class.
If we're going to, there's only a few players that have any chance of reaching that tier, and Kelly is one of them. So I've had my issues with Kelly in the past, but I think he's been pretty faultless, apart from maybe one issue so far. And when he was out for the Liverpool game and Senesi came in, I think you could see how big of a difference that was. Admittedly, Senesi definitely improved against Newcastle while making a couple of mistakes, but he's so important to the team. And I think he's definitely one of only a few players that you could even argue fit in absolute class at the moment.
I'm going to let you have that one then. Let's stick him into absolute class. This early on, only 7 games into the Premier League. You've created yourself a problem now, John, because the next player is Chris Mepham. I said at the start of the season, this player shouldn't be in a starting 11 if you're looking to finish 17th. But I have also praised Chris Mepham when he's played well, and he has been very good. I think the only poor mistake I've seen him make, and it's not really a poor mistake because you're playing the best team in the league, was his position and ball watching for the first goal against Manchester City. But apart from that, he's been solid. He's taken that place. And even against Newcastle, without Lloyd Kelly and Senesi next to him, he was brilliant. And now you've got a problem because you've just put Lloyd Kelly in absolute class.
Yeah, and I put Mepham in there as well. There's only maybe 3. I think they're definitely the first, probably some of the first I'd put in there. Whilst many have produced good performances, Mepham has been faultless, basically. As you said, he made the mistake for the Man City game, but that's not really too much of a thing. He is the club's player of the month, as voted for by the fans. He has been absolute class this season. So I would definitely put him up in that tier. Those two have been very unfortunate to concede so many goals against the big sides, but when they haven't played those big sides, they have looked very good. Well, they've looked absolute class. They've looked absolute class.
And anyone watching this who's not a Bournemouth fan will see we've conceded how many goals. But anyway, they have been absolute class. Next player on the list is Adam Smith. He captained against Newcastle. He's been very good. Right back where he belongs. Again, it's very hard to get Adam Smith out the team. Even with Ryan Fredericks coming in, you probably wouldn't have said he'd knock Adam Smith straight out the team, even though he's been injured. Jack Stacey's not played much. He's on the list next. But Adam Smith, very good. Very good.
I'm more inclined to go steady. I think that there have been a number of moments where I've looked at Smith and gone, maybe the age is catching up to you a bit here. But if he starts settling into that right centre-back slot that he did against Nottingham Forest, that is a position I could see him taking up and being very good in the future. I think you look at the first goal against Arsenal, where he basically turned into a 5-year-old and turned his back on Jesus as he runs towards him. And I'm thinking, if you're going to do that, you're going to struggle this season. But he picked it up, and yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to go steady, but he has had some very good games as well.
I'm just starting to realise, John, that we probably did need a tier between steady and very good. But again, I'm happy to match you here. Let's put Adam Smith next to Neto as steady. Next player on the list is Jack Stacey. We could probably get this one straight on the tier list. Not fair to judge. Came off the bench against Newcastle as we went very deep to hold on to that 1-1. But again, Jack Stacey will always give you heart. He actually tried to get on a bit in that second half against Newcastle on the odd break we had at 1-1. I really like Jack Stacey, but at the moment, he's going to be a squad player when required, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. But he has played. He played 120 minutes against Norwich, and he did play 90 minutes against Man City. So he has had 2 full games. But I would still say that if performances against City aren't really fair to look at. So yeah, I'd agree with that one. And James Hill below there, of course, is one of the few players in our squad that has yet to play a single minute in the Premier League. So absolutely throw him in there. And Senesi, how do you feel about Marcos Senesi has performed so far, Kirk?
Next one, Marcos Senesi. Look, before Newcastle, I would have put him in underperforming. He's come to the club, big money signing for us nowadays from Feyenoord. I was expecting big things. And the first thing I saw about him, John, was he's a gladiator. That's his nickname. And his first bit of real action, I know he sort of came off the bench in the game before, but his first real action was starting against Arsenal. Within 4 minutes, Jesus owned him, like from a strength point of view. And I was just like, what? Gladiator? He really did struggle against Arsenal, although a lot of players did. It was a big game for him against Newcastle, but it was good to see. I thought at times he was a little bit sloppy and he gave the ball away in dangerous areas, but from a defensive point of view, it looked more promising. He's going to need time to settle into the club. I was a lot happier to see him on Saturday than I was in previous games. I mean, I'd look to put him in steady now rather than underperforming, to not be too harsh.
No, I'd go steady. I think that's fair. I think he did perform well against Newcastle. I think he looks to be the aggressive defender that we kind of were expecting. And I think when he gets more used to the level, he's going to show himself to be very much good enough for us, maybe even better. But that's going to take a bit of time. And now, given Lloyd Kelly's suspected long-term injury, he will get that time. So he'll be in the squad starting 11 for the next allegedly 2 to 3 months, and he'll get a great opportunity to show how good he can be for us.
As long as that's not very good for Lloyd Kelly, it's good that Senesi might get more games, as you say. Fantastic. Next player is Jordan Zamora. Now, I questioned whether Zamora could make this step up. Was it too soon? We didn't get any other real left-backs in pre-season, just in case. But he looks okay, John. The only concern I really have with Jordan Zamora is he does like to get on up the pitch. And when he does that, he leaves us a little bit exposed. And then, the back three would turn into a back three anyway when he sort of goes on. Was he to blame for the penalty, maybe being out of position? Questionably, but he did get man of the match against Newcastle. I do like Jordan Zamora. I would like him to sign a new contract. Where does he go in this tier list, though? Because, again, I'm thinking, is it just a bit too much for him to go into very good?
Yeah, I think he has also been sort of. It would be easy to scapegoat him as well, but given the times that he's been substituted off the pitch, Tavernier's gone into left wing back, and particularly against Nottingham Forest, we then push on, and he was the only sub that was made, and it would be harsh to blame him for underperforming, given he was our greatest creative outlet in the first half against Forest. I think his ball into Tav against Newcastle to create that header that Tavernier missed. I didn't know he could play that ball. That was an outstanding lobbed cross, and I had no idea he had that in him. I think Zamora is our best creator. I think his defending numbers are actually better than Adam Smith. I think he's actually very good so far. I think he is arguably in that tier again between steady and very good. But I would say that what he has done, I think he's shown to be very good. And very much capable of performing at this level. And there were talks that he was being scouted by bigger teams last year when we were in the Championship, and I would be very surprised to see, very surprised if there weren't also other bigger clubs sniffing around Zamora this season. And I'm just hoping that he gets that contract signed, because if we lose him on a free, that'd be devastating.
Definitely would. Right, John. Should we throw 3 or 4 players straight into this tier list, shall we? I reckon we could throw David Brooks into not fair to judge. What a player, what a guy. Cancer free now. I know he's just picked up a hamstring injury, but the effort he was putting in pre-season just to get himself part of the team. But not fair to judge for David Brooks.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you've got Rothwell. Absolutely the same. Injuries have kept him out. You've got, where are you going next? Siriki Dembele or the Jamal Lowe. Both Jamal Lowe has played a couple minutes. Siriki Dembele, again, yet to feature in the Premier League. And in fact, I don't think he features against Norwich either. He's one of the few players that hasn't played a single second for us yet. Let's see. You've got Junior Stanislas, you're over there. Obviously, injuries prevented him from getting game time. Who else have we got? Jack Stevens came on against Newcastle for his debut, helped to secure the point. And Emiliano Macondo is definitely not seeing enough of him either in the Prem. And Ben Pearson. Yeah. Actually, Ben Pearson
started against Villa.
He started a few games. Did well against Villa. Helped us keep a clean sheet. Then was played out of position for me against Arsenal on the left-hand side of a midfield 3. Didn't work for him at all. So that one is one I would not be wanting to sort of take into my consideration. He's bordering on unfair to judge. Like, how many minutes has he played for us so far?
I'm just wondering if we put him in steady.
I think we'll go with steady. He has played over 2 games worth of minutes, so yeah, I think going to steady would be fair enough for Ben Pearson, and hopefully he's not too far away from getting back into the squad.
It's more of a reason just to fill up more boxes, I think. So we'll put Ben Pearson into steady because he was fantastic against Aston Villa on our first Premier League back in the Premier League game, and 3 points, 2 goals, clean sheet. So let's put Ben Pearson in there. Right, back on it. Let's go Lewis Cook, John. Someone who was very effective last season for us in that Championship run to the Premier League. Again, I think there's still loads more in the locker, with Lewis Cook. Mr. Relentless. Wouldn't say he's very good yet. Maybe being a little bit unfair, but definitely steady. Again, I want to see him protect the ball a little bit better at times, but he's definitely in my starting 11 and still can't believe how many years are ahead of him.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I do think that he's putting good performances though, and I think that when you consider he was really showing the fans what he do in that number 6 in a 4-3-3, that position doesn't exist for him anymore in the way that we're playing this season. So he's having to readapt his game again, and I felt that against Forest he was particularly impressive, playing as actually a more attacking, right-sided, box-to-box midfielder, with Billing being the more aggressive one on the other side. But we'll stick with steady. I love Lewis Cook. He's probably my favorite player in the side. I love a playmaking number 6. So I might have been a bit biased and push you towards very good, but it's perfectly fair that he currently sits in steady.
Someone I want to put in very good is Jefferson Lerma. He can play holding midfielder. He can play a little bit further up. He can also play in a back 3 or a back 5 if you're at Newcastle in the second half. This guy gives his everything. Again, I think we probably have seen better performances out of Jeff Lerma at times in his previous career, but what manager doesn't pick Jeff Lerma? And that's because he's very, very good. He's one of those first names on your team sheet, and that's why I want him to go in there, John. I want him to go in very good.
Yeah, Lerma's an interesting one because I think for a good few games he has this season he's looked awful on the ball. I think he's been really quite bad at times with his passing and his touching, but in the more recent weeks, he's definitely picked himself back up again. And just for his versatility, just for performing really well in the back three in the first, or back five in the first couple of games. I mean, just for keeping Haaland to preventing him from scoring,
Yeah.
I think is worthy of going into very good. And he was Haaland's man. He was the central defender that was keeping an eye and trying to do his best to bully Haaland, who is unbullyable. And yeah, I think his versatility, his resilience, and I think a few more recent performances have brought him back to some of his best. And he scored our first goal of the season. So you can't first make record-breaking first goal. Of course, quickest ever goal scored by a newly promoted side. So yeah, I'm happy to go in very good.
I'm happy to see Jeff Lerma in very good. Next player is the Flying Scotsman, Ryan Christie. This is an interesting one. Got some good assists last season in the Championship. Not really, didn't get enough goals for me. I think he only got the one against Peterborough. And it's the shooting. There's no assists on the board this season. I think energy, ambition, he works hard for the team. He's very much a team player. All those things are going to go in his favour, John. Don't think he's got blistering pace. That's going to let him down in the Premier League. He's a player I want in my squad, but he's not. Yeah, he's not going to take your team on to an elite level if that's not too harsh. I do want him to start notching some assists for me. I do want him to start shooting like he did at Celtic. They must be using a different football in the SPFL. I don't understand, but it's gonna upset him in this tier list because he's in a difficult predicament. Where does he go in this tier list? Because I don't want to put him in underperforming because I think the energy he's given deserves more, but he's not giving the output he should be given in the role he plays.
Yeah, I talked to you before we recorded this and saying that if there was anyone that was going to go into underperforming, Ryan Christie's probably the only one I'd put in there. And this is because of his work rate. He still works incredibly hard. He's still an incredibly important person in the team for initiating presses, for tackling opposition. In a defensive setup, you need midfielders to do that job, and he will run forever for you, which is fantastic. However, no assists, no goals. Just looked it up. His key passes per game is 0.3. That's worse than Lewis Cook. That's level with Kiefer Moore. That is a big part of his job as well, and his passing and his decision making haven't been great. I would be happy to put him in steady, but purely because like the one side of his game that you know that he has shown before and needs to start showing again is that attacking side. The only thing that sort of pulls me out of that is to sort of say Bournemouth actually haven't been great going forward this season, which you could say is partly down to Christie and others. Not got over 1xG yet in a match so far this season, and it's been 7 games so far. So he's part of a team that aren't necessarily performing brilliantly going up front. So he's on a borderline, but I think it'd be harsh to single him out when he does so much work. So, if you wanted to put him in steady, then I would be happy to see him go into steady.
We're going to let you off, Ryan Christie. 7 games in, your work rate has just got you up into steady. When we do this again, when the World Cup's upon us, you're going to need to add some assists and goals to not fall down into the next tier. Is that fair, John?
I think that's fair.
We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Benefit of the doubt. Back to it is Marcus Tavernier. Someone, again, who has an unbelievable engine. Borough fans told me this when we signed him. You've got a player on your hands. So much more in the locker to come for Marcus Tavernier. But, John, no goals, no assists, his main job.
Yep, absolutely. That is definitely a part of his game. That is something that we haven't seen happen yet. What I would say is that he has done more going forward than Ryan Christie. In terms of key passes, he is by far the strongest in the squad. He's at 1.4 key passes per game, which is 0.2 ahead of Jordan Zamora, who is also one of our chief creators. So it's not like he hasn't put in the opportunities for other people. In fact, he's the best at doing that, but no one's finished those chances yet. So he's definitely shown more about his game, but he's also done just as much incredible work off the ball as Ryan Christie. I would put him in. I would say he's probably not, without an assist or a goal, he's probably not quite reached very good. As much as I have been impressed with a lot, I've been really impressed by him. He's certainly done better than Christie, and he might have fit in that. If we had put another tier in between very good and steady, I think that'd probably be the biggest tier at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say we'll keep him at steady for now, but he's very much creeping into very good for me.
He probably should be just ahead of Ryan Christie, but we haven't got the extra tier. But no goals, no assists, that would have got him into very good. I agree. Next player is Philip Billing, top goal scorer. Although, John, he scored at Newcastle, scored a belter at Nottingham Forest. There are times this season where we've seen the old Philip Billing that gets lost, struggles to get in a football match, looks like he's ambling around. And is that going to trip him up getting into very good? Because his numbers so far early on, should be one of the weakest teams in this league. You should be putting him in very good, really.
Yeah, I would be as well. I'd say the times where he has been off it have taken him from absolute class down to very good. I would say, in my opinion, because when you look at his two goals are fantastic for very different reasons, and when he's been allowed opportunity, when he's been given a bit more responsibility, I would say he was incredible against Aston Villa. Produces 10 tackles and interceptions combined, which was, I think, that was the top of any team, any player outside of the Big Six in game week 1. His pressing numbers are still good. He has, however, had times, particularly you've got to look at Nottingham Forest first half, where he was completely out of the game and couldn't do a thing. And then second half, he practically ran the game because he was given more of a responsibility. I feel as he was given a better role that suits his talents. And defensively, he has impressed. So I would say that he is close to being one of the few absolute class players in our side so far, but I would stick him in very good for now.
He's in very good. I've done it for you, John. And the next player is our number 9 striker, Dom Solanki. 1 goal in the Premier League, contributed towards those 3 points against Nottingham Forest, does way more than just scoring goals. I want to feel like Dom Solanki deserves a little bit more than steady. And again, you've got to take into consideration, John, that Scott Parker didn't play him in the position that done us so well last season. So he was having to do a team game at the start of the season. It's only since Gary O'Neill's taken over with Tommy Elphick that he's gone back to being the number 9, and he's working hard, dropping in, getting out, scoring a goal, getting assists. And I mean, Dom's very good.
Yeah, let's not forget Sean Cooper as well, who was actually more senior than Tommy Elphick, I suppose, in terms of he was the actual manager of the under-20 or the reserves under-21s, whichever one. Yes, I would have him in very good. I think you've got to look at the fact that he was injured for a couple of games as well. But I think that the role he performed against Villa, as much as it definitely doesn't get the best out of him, I thought he performed incredibly well as basically a left mid. He's so all-rounded, so capable of basically doing literally anything. He could play at centre-back and he wouldn't look out of place in the Premier League, as far as I'm concerned. I think he is literally that good at doing basically everything. So yeah, I'd stick him in very good. He's not really done enough to be putting himself in absolute class yet, but yeah, I definitely have him in very good.
He's on the same career path as a lot of other Bournemouth players that have ever played in the Premier League, that he's having to prove the rest of the Premier League that he can play at this level. And I'm sure he will. Kiefer Moore scored against Aston Villa. What a header that was. That took his overall Bournemouth run rate, I think, from 5 games, 5 goals. He's dropped out the team slightly in that management change, but a great player for us to have in the squad. Difficult to judge in this tier list. If it was game 1, it'd be straight in absolute class, but struggled at Man City, didn't they all? Oh, steady for Kiefer Moore.
Yeah, I think that'd be fair. I think considering that he started against Arsenal, City, and Liverpool, and you can't really judge him off any of those games. He played really well against Villa. Produced, I think he was the second most presses out of a player outside the top 6 in the first game week, if I remember correctly from the other 14 Twitter account. I think he was unfortunate to have to play an incredibly hard job with basically none of the ball in Scott Parker's setup against the 3 best teams in the division. So yeah, I think unlike maybe Mark Travers, where it's say to not fair to judge, I think Kiefer, I think we can at least put in steady after 4 games.
And he played very well in that first half against Arsenal when he was trying to get us up the pitch and hold the ball up. And yeah, it's fine. Absolutely love Kiefer Moore. Last player is Jaden Anthony. Now, this is someone that thought he might be straight in the team against Aston Villa after he did very well in the Championship. He saw his mate go in the team and thought, hang on a minute, there's no Jay-Z without Jaden Anthony. But he's had to work hard. He came on against Forest. He got the winning goal. He's come on at times and had to do a job. Jaden Anthony again, steady. I don't think he can go anywhere else, John, because he's not had a chance to really go on to very good and absolute class, and he's not underperformed when he's been called upon.
No, he's played slightly more than Jack Stacey, slightly less than Ben Pearson, so he would be on the border, I suppose, between not fair to judge and steady. But I think he has played definitely enough and shown enough about him to certainly, give him more of a rating. And I mean, for what he's been asked to do so far, he's done it. And I mean, you've only got to look at the goal against Forest, his work rate in that game for a very short period of time that he came onto the pitch. He's been involved in 5 games so far, but not really played all that much in any of them. But has been memorable certainly in Forest, and I'm hoping he gets more game time. I really am, because I think that he's definitely got it in him to perform at this level. I've got absolutely no doubt in that. And the more he has played in that little triumvirate with Billing and Zamora, the more we'll get out of him, I'm sure.
You love Jaden Anthony. We all love Jaden Anthony, and he's in the steady because of mainly getting a goal at Forest and just doing a little bit more in those limited minutes he's had. There you go. There's our first tier list this season where we get breaks in the Premier League to rate the players on how they are doing in this competitive Premier League. Look, Lloyd Kelly and Chris Mepham straight out there in absolute class. Even though we've conceded a lot of goals, they have been absolute class. And then the rest of the team has been filtered between very good, steady, not fair to judge. And John, that means there's no one in underperforming and no one in Parker was right. That has got to be a good thing. We try to be fair here, but people might agree. Other fans might think that some others need to go into underperforming, or Parker was right. I'd be interested to know who those players are, to be fair. That's a good sign, though, John. And 8 points after 7 games. Very good start.
Absolutely. And I'd say that it's very unlikely we'll find anyone going into Parker was right at the bottom, because Parker is always wrong now that we've gotten rid of him. I think that whilst we could maybe argue one of our players has underperformed so far, I think given the results, I think we have been very good as a team so far against all those in those 4 matches outside of the top 6, where we have got points from every single one of them. So it's been an incredibly impressive team display so far, and shown some real resilience after a very damaging set of fixtures towards the start of the season. So I'm looking forward to this international break disappearing before our eyes and us getting straight back to league action.
I'll tell you what we'll do, John, is we'll archive that tier list. When we stop for the World Cup, we'll reconvene. We'll look at that tier list and we'll reposition players where they need to be repositioned, and we'll see if there's any change in their performances. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
Well, thanks for joining me on this video, John.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again.
Thanks to the fans who checked out this video. Do let us know your thoughts. If you want to send us a tier list yourself, an image, put it on one of our socials or email it to us. We're happy. Or just tell us in the tier list if you disagree with any of those. Make sure you subscribe to Cherries Red Army. Hit the like button. And of course, you can become a member or donate to the channel at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. Really do appreciate your support. But until the next video from me and John, that's your tier list for now. We'll see you on the next one. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.